Rain poured down on a narrow city street as a young woman ran while holding her baby tight, clearly being chased. She ducked into a quiet corner, soaked and shaking, and softly sang to calm the child in her arms. A nearby resident heard the song, stepped outside, and felt pity for the baby shivering in the rain. She invited the mother inside so the child would not get sick. The mother hesitated, then suddenly handed over the baby and said she would go buy medicine and come back soon. Before leaving, she placed a strange gourd-shaped pendant around the baby's neck. That was the last time anyone ever saw her. The woman searched everywhere, but the mother had vanished without a trace. Years passed, and the abandoned child grew up under a new name, Lu Xiu. 18 years later, Lu Xiu was walking through a lively street festival with his adopted sister, Lu Xiaoyu. The city buzzed with rumors about people suddenly awakening supernatural powers, and those stories were spreading fast. A large crowd gathered around a street performer who was openly controlling fire, and it looked far too real to be a trick. As Lu Xiu watched, something strange happened. The world froze. The crowd stopped moving, the flames hung still, and in the next instant, Lu Xiu found himself floating in a dark space where a sword hovered silently in front of him. At the same time, the pendant on his chest glowed faintly. Then everything snapped back to normal as if nothing had happened. Lu Xiu stared at the performer in shock, fully convinced that what he saw was real power, not some cheap illusion. When the show ended, Lu Xiaoyu excitedly suggested sneaking backstage to learn the secret. Lu Xiu agreed, and they slipped behind the curtain, only to witness a group of people secretly drugging the performer until he collapsed. Lu Xiaoyu screamed in panic, drawing attention to them, but Lu Xiu quickly played dumb, asking where the bathroom was and pretending they were lost. The group coldly claimed they were police conducting an investigation, and Lu Xiu calmly apologized and left with his sister. As they walked away, Lu Xiu couldn't shake the thought that the man had truly used powers and that these so-called police were hunting people like him. Later, Lu Xiu asked Lu Xiaoyu what she thought about awakened individuals. She arrogantly replied that once her own power awakened, she would crush everyone else and protect Lu Xiu no matter how weak his ability turned out to be, especially since he was her personal chef. Lu Xiu could only smile and accept it. They returned home to the woman who had raised Lu Xiu since childhood, Aunt Li Xiu, who was watching news reports about the growing number of superpowered incidents. Lu Xiu went to cook but realized they were out of pasta, so he headed back outside to buy some. While walking alone, memories flooded his mind, remembering how no one ever stood by him except Aunt Li Xiu, how she stayed with him when he was sick, and even ran away from the orphanage just to live with him. Lost in thought, Lu Xiu failed to notice a car speeding toward him. It slammed into his body, sending him flying across the street as blood spilled onto the pavement. It should have been fatal, but the pendant on his chest suddenly glowed and activated, healing his wounds instantly. Lu Xiu slowly floated upward before dropping back to the ground. He opened his eyes in disbelief, realizing he felt no pain at all. He immediately suspected his power had awakened, but he still refused to let the reckless driver escape responsibility. The driver stood frozen in horror, convinced Lu Xiu was dead, until Lu Xiu stood up like a vengeful ghost. Numbers appeared above the man's head, terrifying him so badly that he jumped into his car and fled the scene. As if nothing happened, Lu Xiu continued walking to the store, where the shop owner stared at him in shock after seeing blood still covering his head. Strange numbers popped up above the man's head again, leaving Lu Xiu completely confused as he grabbed the pasta and hurried home. On the way, he accidentally bumped into two strangers, and just like before, numbers instantly appeared above their heads too. By the time he got home, Aunt Li Xiu noticed the blood on him and asked what happened, but Lu Xiu brushed it off and rushed into the bathroom. He checked himself carefully and realized there were no injuries at all, not even a bruise. Back in his room, he started thinking hard about what his ability might be, when a translucent screen suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. It showed a list of points he had collected that day. Lu Xiu stared at it in confusion, wondering who all these people were until the memory clicked. Every time someone got annoyed, scared, or upset because of him, numbers appeared, and those numbers turned into points. The more negative emotions he caused, the more points he gained, and the stronger he became. Lu Xiu couldn't hold back his excitement. He decided right then that annoying people might be his fastest path to power, joking to himself that he would rise up as some kind of demon king just by making others miserable. As he explored the screen further, a feature called the Wheel of Fortune appeared, which could be spun once for every 100 points. With 900 points saved up, Lu Xiu happily spun the wheel again and again. The first few spins gave him nothing but a polite message thanking him for participating, but on the third spin, a glowing apple appeared. The moment he ate it, warm energy surged through his body, making him feel refreshed and stronger. Encouraged, he kept spinning until he obtained a mysterious scroll. When he opened it, he realized it contained the lyrics of the song his mother used to sing to him long ago. As Lu Xiu softly sang it with his eyes closed, his consciousness was pulled into a strange inner space, where he found himself competing with Lu Xiaoyu. Negative points started stacking up fast, and instead of panicking, Lu Xiu felt thrilled and deliberately irritated her even more just to rack up extra points. After snapping back to reality, Lu Xiu went to relax and watch a movie, but partway through he sensed something off outside. He quietly climbed up to the rooftop and spotted the same group of suspicious people from before. He tried to hide, but they noticed him anyway. One of them questioned him about what he was doing there, and Lu Xiu calmly replied that he lived there. The man warned him about a dangerous criminal in the area and told him to stay inside. Lu Xiu complied, but deep down he realized something important. He could sense their presence, yet they couldn't sense him at all, which meant his power was already stronger. Back inside, Aunt Li Xiu asked what he had been doing, but before he could answer, they noticed someone collapsed outside the house. Lu Xiu rushed out and told her to stay inside, but she kept nagging him, feeding him even more points, and eventually followed him anyway. When Lu Xiu checked the man, he recognized him as the fire performer from the festival. He suggested calling an ambulance and bringing him inside, but Aunt Li Xiu bluntly refused, saying it was too expensive and they couldn't afford it. That response immediately triggered a wave of negative points from the man, and Lu Xiu quickly realized he was pretending to be unconscious. Seeing an opportunity, Lu Xiu started provoking him on purpose, smiling as his points climbed higher and higher. The man finally snapped and demanded water, but Lu Xiu sarcastically offered him ice instead, making him even angrier. When the man tried to get sympathy from Aunt Li Xiu, Lu Xiu knocked him back down and kept taunting him, farming points without mercy. Enraged, the man unleashed his fire ability at Lu Xiu, but Lu Xiu's power activated instantly, snuffing out the flames and leaving the man stunned and humiliated. No matter how many times he tried, his fire did nothing. Lu Xiu enjoyed every second of it, especially as the points kept rolling in. Furious and defeated, the man finally gave up and stormed off, only for Lu Xiu to casually warn him not to fall off another rooftop, earning even more points. Back inside, Lu Xiaoyu stared at him in disbelief and asked how he didn't get burned, wondering if his powers had awakened. Lu Xiu played it cool at first, but then casually admitted that they already had, shocking her and earning a few more points when he told her to do his homework before sleeping. Alone again in his room, Lu Xiu checked the system and bought a strange item with his points. After eating it, he was pulled into his inner realm once more, where he saw a distant planet and realized he had gained a new ability. Returning to reality, he tested himself and easily lifted his bed with one hand. Later, he sat beside Aunt Li Xiu while she watched TV and opened his class group chat, deliberately teasing his classmates and collecting a flood of points from their angry replies. Aunt Li Xiu then asked why no one had contacted him yet, and Lu Xiu replied that the group had only started a while ago. Lu Xiu casually explained that no one bothered messaging him because they all knew he had no money, and Aunt Li Xiu shot back that he was just avoiding things. Lu Xiu calmly broke down their reality, explaining how rent, water, and gas barely left them enough to survive. Feeling bad, Aunt Li Xiu handed him a basket of eggs to sell the next morning, making it clear that this side job was how they kept themselves afloat. Every day before school, Lu Xiu went out to sell eggs to earn a little cash. The next morning, he set up his stall, and an elderly man nearby asked why Aunt Li Xiu was not with him. Lu Xiu explained she was sick and resting at home. Two of Lu Xiu's classmates walked past him, clearly recognizing him, but they pretended not to see anything and hurried away. The old man grew angry and demanded to know why they ignored him. Lu Xiaoyu calmly said they were probably embarrassed because he sold eggs. That only made the old man angrier, ranting that honest work was nothing to be ashamed of. Right then, the class president showed up and openly mocked Lu Xiaoyu, asking if selling eggs was how he managed to stay alive. Lu Xiaoyu instantly saw what he was trying to do and replied calmly that he slowly earned enough to cover his expenses. The class president got irritated, and Lu Xiaoyu quietly collected points. Not satisfied, the class president warned him that selling eggs would ruin his reputation if the school found out. Lu Xiaoyu smiled and asked if he was really that worried, then suggested he buy all the eggs himself. Confident and arrogant, the class president agreed. Lu Xiaoyu immediately packed every egg into a single bag and loudly announced that the class president had bought them all, leaving nothing for the people waiting in line. The crowd erupted in anger, flooding Lu Xiaoyu with points as the deal ended in seconds. Back in class later, Lu Xiaoyu noticed a newly launched website that tracked people who had awakened supernatural abilities. Seeing an opportunity, he stood up and casually announced that someone in their class had awakened a power. Everyone exploded with questions, asking who it was. Lu Xiaoyu shrugged and said the message was anonymous, so he had no idea. The room filled with frustration and anger, and Lu Xiaoyu happily gathered points from every direction. In the middle of the chaos, a student burst into the classroom yelling that something terrible had happened. He shouted that an upperclassman had awakened powers, attacked people, and was holding the principal on the rooftop, ready to throw him off. Lu Xiaoyu immediately saw it as a golden chance and ran toward the scene. On the way, he passed a quiet girl and sensed hidden power within her, even though she showed no reaction. When Lu Xiaoyu reached the rooftop, he saw the student gripping the principal while everyone else froze in fear. Instead of panicking, Lu Xiaoyu walked straight up and launched into a long, drawn-out lecture about responsibility, consequences, and how ruining his life would not solve anything. The crowd grew bored listening to him ramble, but Lu Xiaoyu's points skyrocketed. While the attacker was distracted by the endless speech, the authorities rushed in and subdued him, ending the crisis. Lu Xiaoyu returned to his classroom to find officials waiting to test students for awakened abilities. He tried to slip away but failed and went home feeling uneasy. On the street, a man tried to introduce himself to Lu Xiaoyu, but Lu Xiaoyu ignored him completely, earning points just by walking past. When he reached home, Aunt Lu Xiaoyu opened the door looking pale and weak. Lu Xiaoyu helped her to bed and told her to rest while he went to get medicine. After leaving the room, he hesitated and wondered if the fruit he obtained from the system could heal her. He activated his ability, spun the wheel, and obtained several small fruits. He gave one to Aunt Lu Xiaoyu, and within seconds her fever vanished and her strength returned. Lu Xiaoyu teased her lightly afterward, earning a few extra points. The next day at school, the test results were announced as names of awakened students were read aloud. The first was Li Yi, the same quiet girl Lu Xiaoyu sensed earlier. Then the class president was called, followed by several others. Finally, the teacher read the last name hesitantly, clearly doubting the result. That name was Lu Xiaoyu, the same student who had been collecting points non-stop. The following day, a transfer student arrived and sat beside Lu Xiaoyu after the previous seatmate had finally had enough of his constant teasing. The new student introduced himself as Jia Yi. Almost immediately, Lu Xiaoyu leaned over and casually asked if anyone had ever confessed their love to him. Jia Yi answered yes, and Lu Xiaoyu smirked and added that he did not mean boys. Lu Xiaoyu casually asked Jia Yi if a girl had ever confessed to him, instantly catching him off guard and earning a few more points from his reaction. That evening, all the awakened students were gathered at school for official training, and Lu Xiaoyu quickly realized the instructor was the same strange man he had kept running into before. The instructor started the session by asking if anyone understood the sodium-potassium solution. The class president eagerly raised his hand, but the instructor ignored him and instead pointed at Lu Xiaoyu to answer. Lu Xiaoyu casually joked that it sounded like a shortcut to heaven, instantly irritating the instructor, who snapped that asking him had been a mistake. The instructor then explained that the solution was used to measure efficiency, and when mixed with blood, it would change color depending on how strong a person's power was. Darker color meant stronger ability. Everyone was given a test tube to measure their current level, with the reminder that these results only reflected their present strength. When the results came in, Lu Xiu scored dead last. What no one knew was that he had deliberately eaten a weakening fruit earlier to hide his real power. The class president immediately tried to mock him, but Lu Xiu fired back with calm, irritating remarks that only made everyone more frustrated and fed him even more points. Later that night, Lu Xiu returned home and activated the system again, noticing a new item added to the Wheel of Fortune. He spun it and received tofu. It smelled absolutely terrible but tasted amazing if you could get past the stench. When Aunt Li Xiu smelled it, she nearly exploded, demanding he get that disgusting thing away from her. Lu Xiu casually claimed he got it by chance, which she obviously did not believe. He kept spinning until he ended up with 50 pieces of tofu, while Aunt Li Xiu complained non-stop about having nothing else to eat. As Lu Xiu continued spinning, a document appeared, but before he could open it, a sudden surge of energy erupted. Time froze, a black beam tore through the sky, pierced their house, and shot straight into Aunt Li Xiu's body. Panicking, she asked Lu Xiu what was happening, and he calmly told her to close her eyes and focus. The moment she did, her star map appeared, signaling that her power had finally awakened. Overwhelmed with excitement, she could barely process what had just happened. Later, Lu Xiu returned to his room and stared at the pile of tofu, trying to figure out how to turn it into profit. That was when inspiration hit. He could sell it. Anyone who hated the smell would get annoyed, and that annoyance would turn straight into points. The next day, Lu Xiu headed out to sell tofu and passed by an old man practicing sword techniques with impressive skill. The old man tried to show off and offered to teach Lu Xiu a move, but Lu Xiu flatly said no and walked away, leaving the old man stunned and handing over free points. When Lu Xiu started selling tofu, people avoided it at first because of the smell, but once one brave customer tasted it and praised the flavor, a crowd instantly formed and the tofu sold out in seconds. Days passed as Lu Xiu continued his routine, irritating classmates, strangers, and anyone nearby to gather points, then using those points to unlock more abilities that made him even more annoying. Eventually, he completed all the planets on his star map, triggering the appearance of a new energy and a summonable weapon, a sword he could bring into the real world and control freely. Back at school, his classmates were discussing the rise in strange incidents around the city when the student council president suggested forming a secret organization to fight criminals and protect the country. No one cared. Frustrated, he tried provoking Lu Xiu, but Lu Xiu ignored him completely, earning even more points. That night during training, the instructor brought out a special stone meant to strengthen star maps. Lu Xiu rushed to try it, only for the stone to be rejected outright because his star map was already too powerful. Seeing no benefit, Lu Xiu decided the fastest path forward was still annoying people. The next day, the sword-training old man continued performing flashy moves, desperately trying to impress Lu Xiu, but Lu Xiu passed by him without even slowing down. Later at school, the class president started arm wrestling students, easily defeating everyone. When Lu Xiu showed up, the president mocked him and offered to wrestle using his weaker left arm. Lu Xiu agreed. The moment their hands locked, the match ended instantly with Lu Xiu winning, shocking the crowd and flooding him with points. Lu Xiu then suggested they try again with the right arm. He won again just as easily. Furious and humiliated, the class president listened as Lu Xiu casually mocked him, claiming his power increased just by holding his hand and calling him a lucky star. The president's anger only fueled Lu Xiu further. Afterward, Lu Xiu followed his classmates to eat, deliberately carrying tofu around just to ruin their appetite and harvest more points. Jia Yi later asked how Lu Xiu's power had grown so fast, and Lu Xiu loudly credited everything to the class president, claiming touching his hand boosted his strength, while Jia Yi suggested reporting it to the instructor for extra training stones. Shu casually asked Jia where that mysterious teacher actually worked, and Jia explained he was part of the Earth Network, which immediately caught Shu off guard. Shu pressed further, surprised to learn there was more than one network, and Jia calmly revealed that the Sky Network also existed and was far more powerful. Shu didn't ask anything else, but the information stuck with him. That same night, after returning home, Shu overheard unfamiliar voices outside and quietly listened in, realizing the visitors were members of the Sky Network. Their leader personally tried to recruit the old man, offering him a vacant position clearly reserved only for him, but the old man refused without hesitation, saying he wasn't free right now. The leader warned him that the offer would remain open and left. Watching everything from a distance, Shu finally understood that the old man was far more important than he seemed, and that was when Shu made up his mind to learn swordsmanship from him. The next day, Shu directly asked the old man to train him, and to his surprise, the old man happily agreed and told him to come whenever he wanted. Shu immediately added a condition, asking the old man to help tutor Lu since he was too busy to do it himself. The request instantly irritated the old man, and Lu was even more upset, but Shu quietly enjoyed the steady rise in his points as both of them reacted. The following day at school, Shu noticed his points increasing again and quickly realized why. Lu was making the old man's tutoring session miserable, triggering her ability and feeding Shu even more points. As Shu left class, he noticed Sai walking past him with an unusually calm expression that felt unsettling, like she was hiding something. Meanwhile, the old man struggled through a math lesson with Lu, who constantly exhausted him with sarcastic questions. She mocked his age, twisted his answers, and deliberately pushed his patience until he finally snapped in anger, sending Shu's points climbing even higher. After surviving the tutoring session, the old man turned to Shu and told him he had fulfilled his part of the deal and it was time to begin sword training. He brought out a set of heavy training weights and explained that Shu should increase the load gradually, warning him that the heaviest glove weighed over 300 kilograms. Shu glanced at the equipment, casually lifted the glove with one hand, and tossed it aside, explaining that his strength had already grown enough to skip the warm-up. Shocked but impressed, the old man agreed to start immediately. He took out a sheet of paper and told Shu that the foundation of swordsmanship was understanding that anything could be cut. His energy surged violently as he slashed through the air, ripping space itself and splitting the wall behind it clean in two. He then tossed his sword to Shu and ordered him to train with it. As Shu practiced, his energy continued rising at an absurd rate. His progress so fast it was obvious swordsmanship suited him perfectly. When night fell, the old man asked Shu a serious question about when a person truly becomes strong. Shu answered that it was when someone breaks all the rules, but the old man clarified that he meant the moment someone gains the power to do so. Shu admitted he didn't know, saying all he wanted was a peaceful life where he could protect his sister and live on his own terms, without missions or relying on anyone. He explained that life was hard by nature and that no matter how difficult it became, he would never give up or live by someone else's expectations. Hearing this, the old man felt genuine admiration and accepted Shu's answer. The next day, the old man resumed tutoring Lu, this time bribing her with potato chips, which oddly helped her focus and improve. During the lesson, he suddenly sensed the presence of someone from the Sky Network and stepped outside to confront them, while Lu's irritation toward both of them caused Shu's points to rise again. Shu soon rushed over and was shocked to see a Sky Network member named Shi standing with the old man. Lu noticed Shu and casually asked why he was there, and Shu quickly made up an excuse about forgetting something, prompting Lu to go inside to retrieve it. While she was gone, Shi warned the old man about growing dangers across the country and once again tried to recruit him into the Sky Network, only to be firmly rejected. After Shi left, the old man handed Shu 2 testing tubes to measure his strength. When Shu activated them, the liquid turned pitch black, signaling A-rank power, then shifted again, proving his strength had already surpassed that level. Lu's own rank had also risen beyond A, confirming that everything happening around them was very real. After confirming his strength, Shu quietly took the testing tubes outside and buried them where no one could ever find them. The old man soon ran into him and asked about the results, but Shu casually brushed it off and claimed he was still weak like always, which left the old man completely stunned as he walked away in disbelief. Back home, Shu continued cultivating using his star map, and during training, a new ability finally awakened, an invisible aura wrapped around his body, boosting his power while protecting him from damage. As the energy settled, Shu started worrying about Luo and wondered how her progress was going. At the same time, Luo was asleep and dreaming inside her own star map, where she also unlocked a new ability. When she woke up, Shu asked her to try using it, and she summoned an ant from her black hole, calmly explaining that she could now sense and extract the energy of dead creatures. Shu immediately realized the ant had died just the day before, confirming her power worked. To test her limits, he took her outside, where she summoned a beautiful bird, but Shu quickly explained that something like that would be useless in a real fight and that she needed a stronger summon. When she asked what he had in mind, Shu told her to follow him and promised to get her the perfect weapon. He led her to a pig shop, joking nonstop until she angrily asked if he wanted her to turn into some kind of pig girl. Shu laughed and teased her even more as they waited for a pig to be slaughtered. After returning home, Shu told her to summon it, and when she did, he tested it carefully and confirmed it was just as real as the original. To push things further, Shu drew his sword and killed it instantly. Luo nearly lost control in anger, but Shu quickly apologized and promised to cook dinner, which calmed her down. As they ate together, Shu felt genuinely happy. Thanks to the money he had started earning from selling tofu, their life was slowly improving, and he told her that soon they would be able to buy the house and stop paying rent. The moment didn't last long, because Shu suddenly sensed multiple supernatural presences nearby. He moved out to investigate, and Luo clung to him, insisting on coming along and promising she would not slow him down. They rushed toward the disturbance and arrived near a bridge where a gang was already clashing with the police. From a distance, they watched as one officer easily blocked every attack, making it impossible for the criminals to touch him. Then the officer lost focus for a split second, allowing one criminal to rush him, forcing the officer to retreat and regroup with his teammates. The fighting resumed, but the criminal leader revealed terrifying strength, a fourth-rank threat capable of overwhelming trained officers. He slaughtered 2 policemen and escaped with his men before the rest could stop him. As the police reorganized to set a trap, Shu told Luo to go home and decided to pursue the criminals alone. He tracked them to a house already surrounded by police from all sides. Inside, one gang member panicked and suggested surrendering, but the leader mocked him, promised protection, and dragged his men outside. The police immediately opened fire, but the leader used his own subordinates as human shields, letting them die while he walked through the bullets untouched. The officers chased him down, and one managed to throw a sword straight through his body, believing the fight was over, but the criminal simply stood back up and coldly asked if they were ready to die. At that moment, Shu dropped in from above and casually joked about arriving by accident, which made the police mistake him for another criminal and order an attack. 2 officers charged him at full strength, but Shu effortlessly outclassed them, dodging every strike and defeating them with precise, overwhelming skill. Nearby, other officers tried to finish off the criminal, but he slaughtered them one by one, proving his terrifying power. Shu finished his opponents and watched calmly until a loose metal plate collapsed beneath him, sending him falling. One officer tried to exploit the opening midair, but Shu countered instantly and took him down, leaving only Shu and the criminal standing. The criminal pointed at him and declared it was his turn to die, but Shu released his full power, and the 2 clashed head-on. The difference was absolute. Shu crushed him and ended the fight, proving himself a true master. Afterward, Shu returned home, where Luo rushed to him in panic. He reassured her and told her to come with him to cheer her up, though she immediately reminded him of the pig shop incident from the day before. Shu laughed and promised said this time was different. On the way, they ran into the old man, who asked where they were going, and Luo casually said Shu was taking her to a nearby restaurant. Shu confirmed it, and they moved across the rooftops. Along the way, Shu asked Luo to scan the area within a kilometer, and she summoned her bird and confirmed there was nothing suspicious. Shu told her to wait while he checked one more place. When he confirmed it was clear, he called her over and asked if she sensed any lingering death energy. Luo detected 3 sources, 1 tall and 2 short, and Shu instructed her to absorb the tall one. She did, but when he asked her to summon it for confirmation, she explained she was out of energy and needed a day to recover. Shu praised her and suggested heading back, which immediately upset her when she realized he was joking about the restaurant. After some arguing, Shu finally gave in and took her to eat downtown. As they ate, Shu reminded her to keep everything that happened a secret and never show her powers to anyone, and she agreed. Watching her eat, Shu apologized for their difficult life and admitted he felt guilty for not being able to give her more. Luo burst into tears and told him none of that mattered, that all she wanted was to live with him in their home. Deeply moved, Shu remembered their past and promised they would stay together forever. Elsewhere, the Sky Network held an emergency meeting, discussing the mysterious fighter who defeated a fourth-rank criminal and wondering what kind of monster he would become as an adult, deciding they had to find him quickly. Completely unaware, Shu was out selling tofu, now so popular that it sold out in 10 minutes, which actually upset him since people no longer felt negative emotions around him. As he packed up, a late customer arrived, got angry after hearing it was sold out, and Shu quietly gained 50 points. Shu quickly realized he could turn irritation into profit, so when another customer walked up asking for tofu, he calmly repeated the routine, confirmed the order, told the man to step closer, then casually revealed everything was already sold out. The man exploded in frustration, and Shu quietly pocketed a full 100 points, satisfied with his new strategy. The next morning, Lu Xiaoyu woke up feeling her strength fully restored and immediately ran to Shu to share the news. To prove it, she summoned the creature she had absorbed, and when Shu asked how she controlled it, she casually explained that it followed her will completely and could even attack him if she wanted. Shu instantly begged her not to, which made her laugh. She then revealed something even more shocking, saying she could see the memories of the dead beings she absorbed, and teasingly mentioned how strong his punch had been during the fight. Shu was stunned but thrilled, realizing how useful that ability could be. As she continued searching through those memories, Lu Xiaoyu suddenly mentioned seeing a hidden location where a large amount of stolen money was stored and suggested they take it. Shu immediately refused, explaining that if they touched that money, they would have to turn it in, and doing so would expose her powers to the authorities. Lu Xiaoyu got upset, arguing that they could finally buy the house they lived in and secure their future. Shu admitted he wanted the house too, but insisted he wouldn't get it the wrong way. He kept teasing her to lighten the mood, but it only made her angrier, and she stormed off. The following day at school, the entire class was buzzing about the bridge incident, and Shu couldn't resist mocking them, farming points from their reactions before sitting down. He then asked Jia about the Blessed Land, and Jia explained it was an area rich with spiritual energy where people could rapidly increase their strength and awaken, but it was extremely expensive. Shu asked if there was another option, and Jia mentioned spiritual stones instead, adding that the school would be handing them out soon. The next day, a new principal arrived, Lu Xiaoyu, a confirmed member of the Sky Network assigned to oversee and train the special abilities class. The moment Lu Xiaoyu passed by, Shu sensed something dangerous about him and immediately knew this man was no ordinary educator. Lu Xiaoyu noticed that a student had reacted to his presence but chose to ignore it and continued the ceremony. Afterward, he went straight to the special class and warned them about a mysterious sword-wielding individual recently spotted in the city, carefully describing his traits and ordering them to report anything suspicious. He then distributed spiritual stones based on each student's level, and because Shu was rated low, he only received 2. Later, Shu quietly pulled Jia aside and asked if the stones could be sold. Jia explained that selling Sky Network resources was forbidden, but admitted he knew someone in the black market who might take the risk. After making contact, they learned each stone could sell for 120,000 yen, enough for Shu to finally buy the house outright. Around the same time, Lu Xiaoyu visited the old man, questioning him about the mysterious swordsman and suspecting he might be the teacher behind it. The old man firmly denied everything and lectured him about the impropriety of unfounded suspicion, leaving Lu Xiaoyu embarrassed and forced to retreat. When Shu returned home, Lu Xiaoyu eagerly asked about the Sky Network and the Earth domain, and he explained everything he knew before announcing he had good news. He showed her the money he had saved, handed her a brand new phone, and revealed that he had already spoken with the landlord and secured the transfer of ownership for their house starting the next day. Lu Xiaoyu was overwhelmed, hugging him tightly as she cried with happiness. After that, both of them focused on training, steadily growing stronger. When Shu finally received the house deed, he also got a message from school informing him that the class would be leaving for an external training mission and that he wouldn't be home for several days. The next morning, the students boarded transport vehicles, and Jia explained their destination on the way, a dangerous area known as the Ruins, formed after an alien invasion, filled with illusions, treasures, and deadly threats. He explained that the most important item inside any ruin was the core eye, and once someone obtained it, the entire ruin would collapse. He added that the Sky Network leader had recently opened one and retrieved a core eye that turned out to be a sword, which instantly excited everyone. Upon arrival, their instructor gathered them and warned that this was a confidential mission meant only to build experience, and that any information leak would be punished by the military. The students acknowledged the order and entered the site, receiving their meals and sitting down to eat. While most adjusted without complaint, one chubby student loudly protested about having to eat on the ground and demanded a chair. After enough whining, a soldier finally gave him his own chair just to shut him up, then sat on the ground himself. Lu Xiaoyu's mood instantly dropped when he saw what was happening, so he walked straight up to the student sitting comfortably in a chair and told him to get up. The guy pretended he didn't hear a thing, so Lu Xiaoyu didn't waste words and knocked him down with one clean punch. The instructor rushed over, dragged the stunned student away, and Lu Xiaoyu calmly went back to eating like nothing had happened. That night, everyone focused on training except Lu Xiaoyu, who had no interest in copying their methods. He figured grinding points was way more efficient, so he decided to entertain himself instead. He wandered over to the class leader and started pestering him non-stop while the guy was trying to train. The leader tried to ignore him, but Lu Xiaoyu kept pushing until he squeezed out enough negative reactions to earn points, then casually spent them on apples. After that, he tried calling Lu Xiaoyu to check on her, but there was no signal, and the silence made his chest tighten with worry. Something felt off. Later, he went back to eat again, and this time the cook gave him extra portions, and even a soldier offered him his chair, clearly impressed by what Lu Xiaoyu had done earlier. Lu Xiaoyu refused the chair and sat on the ground instead, eating beside Jia like usual. Once the meal was over, he went right back to annoying the class leader, who finally snapped and ran off to train far away from camp. Lu Xiaoyu, of course, chased him down and kept teasing until he drained every last point he wanted. After that, Lu Xiaoyu finally trained on his own, opening his star map and feeling his power rise steadily. By the time lunch rolled around again, the class leader stormed up to him, furious, and challenged him to a rematch, claiming he had grown stronger and would crush Lu Xiaoyu this time. Lu Xiaoyu agreed without hesitation. The instructor overheard and stepped in as referee while the entire class gathered around, cheering for the class leader and praying Lu Xiaoyu would finally lose. The moment the signal was given, Lu Xiaoyu ended the arm wrestle in less than a second. The crowd went silent as points flooded in, and even the instructor was stunned. Curious, the instructor challenged Lu Xiaoyu next, only to lose just as quickly. Laughing in excitement, he praised Lu Xiaoyu's future potential. Lu Xiaoyu jokingly credited the class leader, claiming touching his hand boosted his power, which only made the class leader angrier and fed him even more points. Suddenly, Lu Xiaoyu noticed thick fog rolling in, something completely unnatural for the area. He immediately sounded the emergency alarm and ordered everyone to evacuate, but before they could escape, the fog swallowed the camp in seconds. Lu Xiaoyu was pulled into a strange unknown space and barely had time to process it before a skeletal monster attacked. He dodged cleanly, countered, and destroyed it with ease, then climbed to higher ground to assess the situation. More monsters surged toward him from below, but none could keep up. As he moved, he ran into several students fleeing in panic, screaming that monsters were behind them, and right in front of him, one was killed. Lu Xiaoyu stepped in and wiped out the monsters in seconds, leaving the others frozen in shock. Another monster suddenly closed in on him, and while the students watched helplessly, Lu Xiaoyu gathered his strength and cut it down. He warned them that the area wasn't safe and told them to find somewhere else to hide. When one girl begged him to stay and protect them, he ignored the plea, handed them an axe, explained that monsters could only be killed by cutting off their heads, and walked away. Later, Lu Xiaoyu hunted skeletal warriors on his own, defeating them one by one until he claimed a sword from one of their remains. As night approached, he kept moving through the ruins looking for shelter when a flare suddenly lit up the sky. Without hesitation, he ran toward it and fired another flare to mark the location. There, he found a person holding a flare gun and leaking energy points, which immediately raised suspicion. Lu Xiu remembered Jia's warning about spies, and his instincts proved right. The man was part of another organization that had infiltrated the ruins ahead of time, planning to regroup using flares after splitting up. Lu Xiu's interference had ruined their plan, leaving the spy irritated and unstable. Putting on a friendly act, the man claimed he was from the same class and had wandered into the ruins by accident. Lu Xiu played along, saying he was also from the special class and suggested they move together. The spy's eyes locked onto the sword Lu Xiu was carrying, and he asked about it, slowly stepping closer and requesting to hold it for a moment. Lu Xiu pretended to hand the sword over, then snapped it back at the last second, turning the whole thing into a setup to farm energy points. The spy immediately said he was leaving, but Lu Xiu suddenly clung to him, acting scared and insisting they stick together. The spy froze for a moment, then reluctantly agreed. As they ran, Lu Xiu deliberately acted slow and clumsy, making it seem like he was struggling to keep up. The spy thought this was his chance to ditch him, but no matter how fast he ran, Lu Xiu stayed right beside him without even breathing hard. Before he could figure it out, skeletal monsters burst out of the ground. The spy panicked and ran for his life, while Lu Xiu pretended to be just as terrified, sticking close and acting useless. The spy tried to steal Lu Xiu's weapon mid-run, but Lu Xiu was clearly playing with him. At the worst moment, Lu Xiu shoved him away and sprinted off, leaving the spy surrounded. Desperate and furious, the spy pulled out a hidden blade and barely survived by killing the monsters himself. Later, the two regrouped on high ground to rest. Lu Xiu pretended to fall asleep, and when the spy crept closer to kill him quietly, Lu Xiu opened his eyes and calmly said he wasn't tired at all. The spy nearly exploded with rage. When morning came, Lu Xiu casually pulled out tofu and started eating it. The spy stared in disbelief, demanding to know how he had food inside the ruins. Lu Xiu teased him non-stop until the spy finally snapped and launched a full attack. The spy was strong and landed several solid hits, but Lu Xiu dodged cleanly and countered every move. During the fight, Lu Xiu's sword fell to the ground, and the spy thought he had won. The moment he rushed in to finish it, Lu Xiu drew a second sword and cut him down instantly. As the spy collapsed, he finally realized Lu Xiu was the same person who had defeated the criminal back in the city. Lu Xiu stood over the body, quietly admitting how terrifying this world was, how yesterday it felt like a joke, and today he had taken a life, but no matter how rough the road became, he would keep walking it. He left the area and wandered into a forest, noticing apples scattered across the ground. Realizing the trees were full of them, he started collecting until a gang of furious squirrels appeared and pelted him with stones. He gained a few points, grabbed the apples, and ran. He didn't stop until he reached a river, drank deeply, and wondered if the ruins ever ended. Right on cue, wolves attacked from all sides. Seeing the entire pack, he turned and sprinted back the way he came. As he ran, he noticed he wasn't tired at all and felt even faster than before. Pushing his speed, he escaped the wolves completely. Eventually, he returned to the place where he had given the axe to the group of students and found their numbers had grown. He sat with them and said he would stay one night only. They begged him to protect them, but he refused. When he asked when they last ate, a girl broke down and admitted it had been 3 days. Lu Xiu ate an apple in front of them and told them where to find apple trees after traveling for 2 days, warning them about hostile squirrels. Frustrated and hopeless, the group fed him even more energy points. One student tried to take the apple by force, but Lu Xiu effortlessly disarmed him, took back the axe, and announced he was leaving. Before going, he quietly left 2 apples behind. Lu Xiu continued on alone and suddenly sensed danger as a skeleton lunged at him with a spear. He grabbed the weapon, disarmed it, knocked the skeleton down, stole another spear, and ran. The skeletons searched for him but eventually gave up and moved on. Lu Xiu followed from a distance, picking up their dropped weapons to mess with them even more. Elsewhere, teachers and students were lying in ambush, planning to eliminate the skeletal knights by killing their leader. Spotting a knight without a spear and assuming he was the commander, a sniper took the shot and blew its head apart. The group celebrated too early. The real leader was still alive and immediately ordered a counterattack, forcing everyone to retreat in confusion. As they questioned what went wrong, one instructor realized the truth: someone had stolen the leader's weapon. Before they could process that, they spotted Lu Xiaoyu waiting nearby, watching the skeletal knights with calm focus. He suddenly lunged forward, slammed one soldier to the ground, ripped the spear from his hands, and calmly walked off like nothing happened. The instructor froze for a second before narrowing his eyes and saying that now it finally made sense who had been stealing all the spears. He couldn't believe a student could pull off something like this, until someone from the Dion class spoke up and identified Xiaoyu as their classmate. They explained that Xiaoyu's energy system awakened after he beat their class leader during the rest challenge, and ever since then, his strength had been completely abnormal. Hearing this, the instructor's interest only grew, and he immediately decided that no matter what, they needed to recruit this kid. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu was already far away, sitting on a tree branch without a single care in the world. Soldiers, skeletons, danger, none of it bothered him. His mind was stuck on memories from his past life, especially his sister Lu, and the overwhelming urge to return to her as soon as possible. After thinking it through, Xiaoyu decided the fastest way back was to clear the ruins quickly and make full use of everything inside. As he moved forward, skeleton warriors suddenly rose up and blocked his path, forming a full ambush meant to kill him on the spot. Instead of panicking, Xiaoyu calmly poured his spiritual energy into the spear, his movements smooth and deadly as he cut through them one by one. The skeleton knights fell without standing a chance, and once they were all down, Xiaoyu wasted no time looting their weapons before moving on. Back home, Lu was furious because Xiaoyu hadn't returned for 3 days, already preparing a long lecture for when he showed up. But when she found the letter Xiaoyu left behind and read it, her anger instantly melted into relief and happiness, and she decided she would wait patiently for him. Not long after, the instructor and his group pushed deeper into the ruins, only to be stunned when they discovered every skeleton warrior along the path had already been wiped out, with all their weapons completely gone. No one even needed to say it out loud, because this was obviously Xiaoyu's work. The instructor grew more impressed by the minute and quietly came up with a plan to support Xiaoyu in clearing out the last remaining skeletons. At the same time, Xiaoyu entered a new area and activated his star map, then casually pulled out a yellow fruit and ate it, instantly gaining even finer control over the spears under his influence. Nearby, the teachers and students lay in ambush, waiting for the final group of skeleton knights to appear. Without warning, a spear dropped from the sky and crushed one knight on the spot, followed by countless spears flying in from every direction, tearing the group apart in seconds. Xiaoyu stepped out right after and personally finished off the survivors. By the time the instructor decided to rush in with the students to help, it was already over, with Xiaoyu standing alone among the fallen enemies. Everyone arrived moments later and could only stare in disbelief at what they had just witnessed. As the instructor walked up to thank him, Xiaoyu immediately made it clear that every weapon piled behind him belonged to him alone, and he wouldn't allow anyone to take even one. The instructor agreed and joked that carrying all that gear alone would be impossible, which made Xiaoyu grin and say that luckily, there were plenty of people behind him. He then sat down next to the weapons like a street vendor and loudly announced that any spear or sword cost 1,000 yen, advertising them as premium loot straight from skeleton soldiers. The students rushed over and started trading their expensive equipment for better weapons, leaving Xiaoyu thrilled with the profits. 2 of his classmates showed up with barely any money and asked for a sword, only for Xiaoyu to tell them their budget could only afford a hatchet, though he promised it was sturdy and sharp. The student happily took it and left, while Xiaoyu quietly celebrated finally getting rid of that awful axe, which immediately irritated the buyer enough to generate energy points. Soon after, the teacher regrouped everyone and led them deeper into the ruins, walking non-stop until their feet were sore. The instructor noticed that Xiaoyu still looked completely fine and struck up a conversation with him, answering Xiaoyu's question by saying that all the students were safe and unharmed, though many military cadets had died protecting them. This deeply moved Xiaoyu and made him respect the instructor even more. Later, they stopped to rest and lit a fire, and Xiaoyu noticed how exhausted the teachers were, barely able to move. Feeling genuinely concerned, he handed them apples, and the moment they ate them, their energy instantly recovered, leaving them shocked and grateful. Seeing this, some students rushed over and demanded apples for themselves, only for Shu to bluntly call them useless for hiding behind the teachers and contributing nothing, telling them to get lost because he wouldn't give them anything. Embarrassed, they backed off, until one wealthy student approached and offered a watch worth 3,000 yen in exchange for 3 apples, which Shu accepted without hesitation. Just then, the sound of monsters echoed nearby, and the group quickly formed a defensive circle as ghosts began closing in. Shu felt his sword inside him violently reacting, eager to come out and slaughter them all, but he restrained it to avoid drawing attention. Even so, the ghosts sensed the terrifying presence of Shu's sword, panicked instantly, and fled the area on their own. Watching them run, Shu calmly decided he would hunt them down later to earn more points. Not long after, the group finally reached the very center of the ruins. By the time everyone gathered at the center of the ruins, the place was already packed. Students were whispering excitedly about a girl named Sai, saying she had wiped out an entire group of skeleton knights by herself. They said her energy had awakened too, pushing her strength way beyond normal. Shu overheard this and finally took notice, but instead of rushing over, he glanced at the pile of weapons he still had and figured he might as well keep selling while there were this many people around. As soon as he set up again, students crowded in. Before he could finish a sale, a classmate ran up and told him the unit leader wanted to see him right away. Shu was caught off guard but followed along, only to find Sai already there. The unit leader thanked both of them for their contributions and asked if they were willing to help explore deeper into the ruins the next day. To test the situation, he threw his sword into a massive opening ahead. The weapon drained a huge amount of his energy just from the throw, and when it finally stopped, they realized the hole was nearly 100 meters deep. Compared to that, Shu's sword showed no energy loss at all, which quietly shocked everyone watching. With no idea what dangers were waiting below, the decision was made to rest for the day and move together tomorrow. Later that night, Shu sat alone and checked the negative emotions he had collected, only to discover something disturbing. Mixed in were 9 people marked only by numbers, not names, which told him immediately they were spies. As he carefully tried to figure out who they were, he missed the sudden commotion nearby. Teacher Lu Xiaoyu arrived carrying an entire apple tree on his back like it weighed nothing, showing just how terrifying his strength really was. Shu walked over and noticed a furious squirrel leap out of the tree, angry that its apples were stolen. When it saw Shu, it attacked without hesitation, but Shu casually caught it and handed it an apple. The squirrel froze, then instantly calmed down, acting obedient and gentle like a pet. Right then, Jia rushed over in a panic to check on Shu. Shu brushed it off, saying everything was under control. Jia excitedly told him he had taken down 4 skeleton knights by himself and that his energy had grown a lot since entering the ruins. Happy for his friend, Shu handed him a spear for free, saying friends don't pay each other. Soon after, one of the spies approached Shu and demanded a spear, promising to pay 50,000 yen once they got out. Shu immediately rejected the deal, saying there was no guarantee. The man lost his temper and started leaking negative energy, and when Shu saw his numbered identity, he confirmed it. This guy was one of the spies. Not long after, Lu Xiaoyu gathered everyone and announced that tomorrow they would push deep into the ruins with no complicated plan. Whatever appeared, they would kill it. Some of the teachers tried to argue that this was reckless, but Lu Xiaoyu refused to change his mind. That night, while most students were asleep, the spies made their move and secretly descended into the depths, aiming to steal the core eye. Shu noticed immediately and stopped one of them from going down. The spy exploded with rage and attacked Shu, and at the same time, the other 8 spies realized one of their team was missing. Still, they decided the mission mattered more and continued downward. As the spy fighting Shu prepared to strike, Shu suddenly shouted at the top of his lungs, exposing him as a spy trying to steal the core before everyone else. The entire camp woke up, and Lu Xiaoyu arrived just as the spy felt an overwhelming pressure crash down on him. In a single move, Lu Xiaoyu knocked him out. Lu Xiaoyu then revealed that he refused to move earlier because he already suspected spies were hiding among them and was waiting for them to reveal themselves. He immediately ordered all students capable of fighting to assemble so they could reach the core before the remaining spies. Shu, Sai, and the others gathered quickly and met with the unit leader. Li Xiao told the commander to stay behind and protect the rest of the academy students. The commander agreed, though he warned Li Xiao to communicate better next time. After that, Li Xiao gave the group a brief but serious talk, telling them that brute force alone wouldn't save them down there and that the only way to survive was by thinking clearly. Everyone nodded, fully aware of the danger ahead. A member of the Sky Network was asked to create a rope ladder, and once it was finished, the team began descending into the darkness. As Shu climbed down, his sword reacted strangely, sending an uneasy feeling through him, but he kept going. When they finally reached the bottom, everyone froze in shock. Every single spy was already dead, all of them having taken their own lives, leaving no one alive behind. Li Xiao took one look at the bodies and immediately told everyone these were abnormal suicide rituals and that they should not touch anything. Without wasting time, the group pushed forward and entered a zone filled with strange glowing crystals that gave off an eerie feeling. Before anyone could react, ghosts poured out from all directions and charged straight at the students. Li Xiao stepped forward and unleashed his energy, cutting down wave after wave to shield them, but there were simply too many, and soon the ghosts surrounded the group. Once the teachers realized the ghosts had weak physical forms, they joined the fight and started clearing them efficiently. Everyone was fighting hard except Shu, because every ghost that got close to him would instantly flee after sensing the terrifying presence of his sword. Annoyed that nothing would attack him, Shu decided to take the initiative and started hunting the ghosts himself. As he cut them down, he noticed his sword absorbing their energy and growing stronger with each kill. Suddenly, a ghost hand burst out and killed a soldier, shocking everyone. This was no ordinary ghost. It was one of the spies. The suicide ritual had turned him into a ghost so he could move unseen and steal the core eye. Seeing this, Li Xiao exploded with anger and cast a powerful barrier to suppress the threat. He and the other teachers tried to figure out how to locate the ghost, but they had no idea where it was hiding. At that moment, Shu felt his sword pull his body to the right, urging him to strike. He trusted it and attacked, hitting the ghost directly. Li Xiao was stunned and demanded to know how Shu found him. Shu brushed it off as luck, but when Li Xiao tried striking where Shu pointed again, it worked once more. After a few failed attempts, Li Xiao realized the earlier hits truly were luck and stopped relying on it, refocusing on the mission. Suddenly, a massive gate opened ahead, and countless enemies flooded out, threatening to overwhelm them. A skeleton commander emerged, riding a mount and declaring that none of them would leave alive. Li Xiao immediately pointed out the spear in the commander's hands, saying it was likely the Eye of Formation, and ordered everyone else to defend themselves while he handled the commander alone. The battle erupted. Li Xiao clashed violently with the enemy leader, landing heavy blows and even killing the commander's mount, but the enraged skeleton went all out and forced Li Xiao into a brutal duel. At the same time, Sky Network members and students fought off the lesser monsters and steadily pushed them back. One enemy nearly struck Shu, but Sai stepped in and wiped out the remaining monsters by herself. Fired up, Shu rushed forward too, but the skeleton sensed his sword and immediately ran in terror. Realizing there was nothing left for him there, Shu broke away from the battlefield and slipped deeper into the castle, hoping to find valuable loot. As he moved inside, an uneasy feeling washed over him, like his sword was warning him that someone was watching. Sure enough, a hidden spy lunged out to assassinate him, but the sword reacted first and erased the threat instantly. Outside, Li Xiao grabbed the commander's spear and refused to let go despite being shaken violently. Meanwhile, Shu wandered into a restricted area marked with a no-entry sign and naturally went inside anyway. He found rows of guards standing still, each holding a spear. His eyes lit up and he walked over to take them, but the guards suddenly activated and attacked. Shu drew his sword, and the guards froze in fear, backing away. He calmly took their spears one by one, even threatening a stubborn guard until he gave his weapon up. Back on the battlefield, the teachers and students were starting to lose ground, their energy running low. One teacher was seconds from death when Sai wiped out the enemies around him in a single burst, but her energy was almost gone. Li Xiao continued battling the commander and unleashed everything he had, managing to seize another spear. At the same time, Shu reached a hidden chamber that felt completely different from the rest of the ruins. This was where the real core eye was. The commander sensed Shu immediately, abandoned Li Xiao, and rushed toward him. Li Xiao realized too late that the spear he took wasn't the real one and chased after the commander, only to be surrounded when the guards turned on him. As everyone's strength drained away and despair set in, the commander closed in on Shu. At that moment, Shu opened the core eye and touched it. Instantly, the entire ruin began to collapse and dissolve. The commander, the monsters, the guards, and even the spears Shu carried were absorbed and vanished. Outside, the mist surrounding the ruins faded away, and one by one, everyone was returned to the real world, stunned and overjoyed that they had survived. The class leader sat on the ground clutching his head while being treated for his injury when Jia suddenly ran in, panic all over his face, asking where Shu was. The class leader brought him to the weapon distribution area to check, but the teacher there coldly said that if Shu wasn't here, then they should probably start looking for his body. Even so, everyone knew how terrifyingly strong Shu had been inside the ruins, and it was hard to accept that he could really be dead. The mood dropped instantly, and despair spread through the group, until Shu suddenly walked in, his body overflowing with energy from everything he had gained. Everyone froze in shock, staring at him like they were seeing a ghost. Shu casually walked up, handed over the spears he had collected, then shamelessly claimed his points from everyone before turning around and leaving without another word. As he walked away, he felt negative energy flowing toward him and immediately knew it was coming from his sister. He found Lu perched high in a tree waiting for him, and the moment she saw him, she jumped down and kicked him like always. She then grabbed him and started checking every part of his body, and once she confirmed he was completely unharmed, she broke down crying in relief. Shu apologized for disappearing without a word and hugged her tightly, promising to make it up to her by taking her to the best restaurant in town. Lu instantly lit up, and the tension from the day finally faded. After leaving the ruins, Li Xiao headed straight for the Sky Network organization to report what had happened and explain that someone had taken the core eye. The unit leader stopped him and asked what he should tell the reporters surrounding the area. Li Xiao told him to say there was an urgent matter and that he suspected the spies were responsible for stealing the core eye, then left without another word. On the way home, Shu and Lu ran into the old man, who checked on them and warned Shu that training was like rowing upstream. The moment you stop, you fall behind. Shu agreed but joked that safe training was far better than risking his life in ruins. The old man then revealed that Lu had been going out every day searching for Shu, even climbing the tallest tree in the city just to catch a glimpse of him returning. Shu was deeply touched, while Lu turned red with embarrassment. Back at home, Shu asked Lu to summon her creature. Confused, she did it anyway and asked what he was planning. Shu activated his power and pulled out 2 energy crystals. Lu was stunned and demanded to know where they came from. Shu explained that his sword absorbed energy from the ghosts he defeated and condensed it into crystals, while the colored one came from absorbing a strange entity. When Lu asked what they were for, Shu said feeding them to her creature would boost its power. The creature swallowed the crystals and its dark energy surged, but then it suddenly burst into uncontrollable laughter, leaving both of them stunned. Lu immediately exploded, yelling about how useless Shu was for giving it a laughing crystal, releasing a wave of dark points. Shu quickly tried to calm her down and pulled out 2 apples he had brought back from the ruins. The moment she saw them, her mood flipped completely, and she happily started eating. The squirrel from earlier spotted her and got angry, but Lu was delighted and immediately declared him her pet, naming him Xia. At first the squirrel resisted, but after being bribed with chips, it happily agreed to follow her forever, creating a ridiculous scene. Later, Shu went to his room and took out the formation eye. As he activated it, his consciousness connected, and he felt himself floating freely, realizing this treasure was the seal of rivers and mountains, allowing him to observe everything around him without being detected. When he disconnected, he sensed something deeper inside and entered again, discovering a massive internal space containing some of the weapons he had collected from the ruins. Thrilled, Shu decided this would become his personal storage. As he explored further, he found a massive sealed gate. At first it wouldn't budge, but after pouring in all his strength, he forced it open just enough to peek inside and saw the ruins he had previously cleared. Shu was ecstatic and decided that once he became stronger, he would fully open the gate and use it as a training ground. At that moment, Lu grew anxious, fearing something had happened to him. Shu sensed her worry and immediately returned, reassuring her that he was just testing his new power. Lu hugged him tightly, her voice shaking as she said she was scared he would leave her again. Shu promised her that no matter what, he would never leave her. He smiled and invited her out to eat, and the mood instantly softened into something warm and peaceful. He told her that once everything settled down, he would use the money he earned to take her on another trip, and hearing that made Lu beam with happiness, her worries completely gone. Elsewhere, the head of the Sky Network sat down with his assistant to discuss the situation surrounding the formation core. The assistant explained that Li Sha suspected one of the spies had stolen the formation and absorbed its power, but the leader calmly dismissed the idea. He said it was unlikely a spy pulled it off and that the true culprit had to be someone far more capable. He revealed that 2 agents had already been dispatched into the city to monitor abnormal energy fluctuations, because wherever a massive spike appeared, that was where the formation core would surface. His sharp judgment made it clear why he held such authority. The assistant then shifted the topic to the Royal Division class, admitting their overall performance in the ruins was disappointing, but added that according to the instructor's reports, 2 students experienced powerful awakenings during the operation. One was a boy with poor academic results but overwhelming combat talent, clearly referring to Shu, while the other was a girl with strong power and steady control throughout the battle, referring to Sai. Hearing this, the Sky Network leader showed rare interest and immediately decided that Sai should be recruited for special training under their organization.